Bam.
This is Richard Bakewell, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Just so everybody knows, if you see the word Rosewell, I'm a dumbass, and I'm going to fix that in flight. It's Roswell because Pete is an idiot. So I own my mistakes. I'm open with them. It is Roswell, just like the place, aliens and whatnots. So first off, man, hey, congratulations. It's anytime you make a movie, it's a minor miracle and sometimes a major miracle. And
Oh,
so
yes.
congratulations on this. And like anybody in this industry, and I'm about to say the words our industry because I'm in the middle of conjuring up a minor miracle myself. Um, Writer, director, producer, marketer, blah 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 blah. I mean, you have so many hats in these worlds. So they'll have a hat in here somewhere. I'll find a hat and I'm gonna tip it to you because
Yeah,
this shit is impossible. Congratulations,
it
man!
is.
I'm
Thank
super
you.
happy for you. Way to go.
Thank you. It was not easy, but we did it. So,
Is it did? Is it all the way did? I mean, right now you're working. You're talking to me.
oh yeah, no, we had the premiere a week and a half ago at Culver City Film Festival. So we had everybody come see it. Had to turn away about 50 people who wanted to see it, and had to walk them out and say, I apologize, we're oversold, but I will make sure I buy your tickets for the next screening we have, and you can come and I'll take care of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then when you took the movie to market to get it sold, what's that experience like? Because look, it's one thing. Okay, look, it's one thing to get the movie made, but the whole marketing. And I don't mean marketing like you're doing now. I mean like
Right.
to take it to the industry to say, "Hey, I'd like to sell you my movie." That is a different industry and different thing altogether, right? Right. I mean, like, and just talk about the challenges of that.
Well, the good plus side is that we have people that are recognizable in our cast. So to approach people, it's a little bit easier. Like if you don't have anybody in your movie that's known, no one cares. They don't want to see it. It's not there's no value to it. So that's why I have like 5 people from the '80s who are recognizable. And having those faces like Anthony Michael Hall and Dee and Reggie Lo Johnson, it's like they will help sell the movie. So when I'm pitching this to them, they want to see it based on this idea that, oh, you have 5 people from the '80s together in one movie. Like, why are you doing this like superhero of like '80s stars in one movie together? So it's been easy to pitch, and I've had a lot of people reach out, and then also people who just want us to sign right away. And here we want to be the ones who put your movie out there. And I'm like, well, you have to read all the fine print, because a lot of times what happens is people want you to sign the contract so they can shop it to HBO or whoever. And if you don't read it correctly, it says in some of the contracts, if you don't make a decision in 2 days, we'll make it for you. And that's it. You're stuck with it. So it's like you
Yeah.
have to really read everything with a lawyer just because it's such it's like we just want to make our money. We don't care about your money. So,
Yeah. Man, and those industry lawyers, they're hyper important, right? And
oh,
and
yeah.
they more than ever have to be forward thinking. We just saw that with this last multidiscipline strike. Like, hey, AI is a thing. How do we think 20 years into the future? Because we just look in the last 20 years, we saw iPods and the music industry completely have to redefine
It
what music
destroyed it.
is.
Yeah.
And iPods are like, that's adorable old timey stuff. You look at now, and Johnny Cash can be reincarnated and have a hit because robots.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. I mean, they just did a remaster of True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and people are complaining because now it looks too like fake because they AI'd the whole movie. All the faces and everything. So it's like it's already getting out of control already. It's like we just need to kind of like stop all that nonsense.
Yeah, but it will get better. I mean,
I
I recall, yeah, like so. I saw a picture the other day of Van Gogh sitting on a stoop, and it was in color. And it's like this is Van Gogh in 18 whatever, and it's like he's got
right.
2 thumbs on his left hand. That's that's going to get fixed, and we're not going to know, and we're just going to assume that someone colorized a picture, and we're going to lose track of what is real, and
Oh
I
yeah.
guess we're going to have to figure out how to leverage this thing because it's going to be undetectable at some point.
Well, yeah, like, Disney's doing stuff with AI and making fake people in the background so you don't have to pay extras. So it's like, I think the strike helped, but I don't think it really resolved that much as they wanted it to. So I think they were all kind of like we need money, we have to work. So here's a kind of a good deal for now, but it's not great. But it's going to be here, I think, forever as technology improves. People are just going to like throw people in the background. It's like, oh, we had people back there. It's like, no, they're fake, you know. So it's going to be an ongoing problem for years.
I don't know if you went to see U2 at the Sphere,
Mhm.
but a lot of that was like, was that real? Did that happen? Or is that not real? And it's amazing, but it's also like it's a hallmark for what is coming. So much of that, um, just it's not. There's so much. It's incredible, but there's a whole lot of not real and that real,
Oh yeah.
and what a ride, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you know, you have to. I think there'll be like this wave of it, and then I think people are gonna get tired of it, and
Yeah.
then they're gonna like start really demanding like the like real like you know how like Top Gun kind of like killed like the idea of like we don't want to see CGI anymore. People want to see the real effects. It's gonna be kind of the same thing. So
Also, the other thing that we can always do is live performance.
right, yeah, that always shows people how great they really are. So
Yeah, yeah. And when you think about stagecraft, maybe that will improve in terms of what we're able to do, you know, in conjunction with AI. But there's only so much fakery that goes on, you know, when someone's actually having to sing and move around on stage and everything, and directorial and writing chops. You know, you got to really do it in real time.
you have to execute too. I mean, I was watching the Wonder Years this morning, and they were showing like clips of the Beatles, you know, on TV, and they're basically just like pretending to play the guitars and sing, but it's all on the track. You know, it's like people are so aware of that now. Back then, they had no idea that was happening. You know, they were being duped. So
Yeah, yeah. I guess you're right about that. Hey, so let's talk about this project because
yeah,
one of the things I know is it's not like, hey, I sat down one day and I thought I'd write a movie, and 90 days later that was done, and then I pitched it and I got approved for my budget. So let's talk about the genesis and go forward.
yeah. Well, unless you're like somebody of very high power in this business, nobody cares about your script or anything or you.
What?
They don't, no, I mean, you have to be, you know, like a Spielberg or a Scorsese to really, you know, have people listen and give you money. So I decided this to be like kind of like almost like Stallone to be like a self-creator and write my own project. And but the catch was I was going to direct it.
Hmm.
However, studios don't really care; they're not going to give you money. So I self-financed with some other producers who put money in and some investors, and we brought all the money together to make this movie. And it was not an easy task, you know. But like I did it pretty much with the help of everybody else, and just kind of bypassed the studio. So, which you know, in turn, gave me the ability to cast everybody that I wanted and not have to be kind of bullied into putting people in these boxes and putting this person in it because like oh well you need this kind of person in the movie. I'm like well I want the best person for the role so I don't care you know about your demands. So I didn't have that in this movie, which is kind of
Yeah.
nice. I think that's why the film works is because I handpicked every actor in the movie. So
No, that's great, and you're right that there's a tiering structure, and I
mhm.
mean, and was it a union film or no?
It was a SAG production, but
Okay.
that was the only union we have in the film because our DP wasn't in the union yet. So we just did a SAG production for it because of Dee Wallace and Anthony Michael Hall and Lisa Wallchill. They're all on SAG, you know. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. That it's an interesting thing too because you I'm going to be a little unfair to Mark Ruffalo. Like when during the strike, when he's like, you know, that there's these indie films, and you're like, Yeah, asshole," you know,
Mhm,
like you act like you don't know. Um, but
exactly.
there is the entire indie, you know, working structure where you can go out and even if you're a SAG person, you can say, "Hey, I'm going to go do some indie stuff," and you can look after some of your friends. You're like, "Hey, there's this guy I know that he just needs a break or a
Right.
paycheck, and he totally can do this,
Yep.
and I don't have to hire this guy because." He's in this structure. I'm not against the union. I mean, I think it's great that they work and they fight together to advance, like to
Sure.
keep AI back. But sometimes it's just great to be like, hey, I want to give Sam Jones a job, and make sure that he gets another check and gets featured, not just like,
Exactly.
oh, there's Sam Jones as a callback. Like, no, man, this guy legitimately can work.
Right. And that's the thing too. It's like if I had brought this to a studio and they were on board, it'd be a whole different cast. Like they would have not had
Yeah.
let me have unknowns as the stars of the movie. They would have wanted, like a Jenna Ortega as the star, even though she is a good actress, but she's not
Of
great.
course.
It's like you would have had to abide by all of their demands. And so like that cast would have just been wiped out completely. So, and that's part of the studio. It was like, oh, we have the power, we have the money, so we have to do what we want us to do. So that's it. Our way or
Well, and
nothing.
they also, they know what works for them and what makes them money, and
Right.
they've got to calculate what's going to work. You've got a different set of investors that have the same kind of demands, and they're saying,
Sure.
"Hey, what do you want to do?" What
Mhm.
is that relationship like? That's interesting because you do self fund. Like one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put together a little war chest where I'll go out and I'll say, I want to invest $100,000, let's say, into this project.
Sure.
Because this, like, I believe that Richard has a great idea, and so I'll have like 20 of my friends with $5,000 each, and we're going to invest in your
Yep.
project. And you're like, man, this 100 grand is going to get me not just started, but past started and going forward, and that will get
Mhm.
me to the next level, right? Like, hey, we have gotten this far now. I can take it to the billionaire or whatever it is. That's what I'm trying to build up, and part of what I'm doing. And you got to be hyper accurate. You don't get to miss. You don't get to miss, right? But you'll be one of the guys. I'm like, do you think you can take this to Sony and sell it? Because now, if you've already got the funding taken care of, now Sony's like, can we? And it's a different conversation.
It is, and it's like, you have three pieces of the puzzle. It's like you have the script, and you have the performance, and then you have the edit. So the edit really changes everything. So it's like, okay, you can sell investors on the idea of the script and these actors you have attached, but also it's like they want to see it at the end. Like, did I spend my money correctly? And a lot of times I tell people, it's like, look, you're investing, you're not always going to get a return as you think, right away. Like you're investing for the long run. So you may make your money back, you may not at first, but you're kind of getting your way into the business. So you're coming on as a producer, or you're coming on as an investor. And then you're, the next movie we have bigger actor, bigger names, then you can really put money into it and get more of your money back. We're kind of building the train here going forward. So, but
Yeah.
it's a
The
climb.
other,
So.
it is, and depending on how you structure everything, again, these lawyers are important. The second sale of that movie, right? The first one goes to Sony, and then you're like, all right, that's done. Now we're going to go and rotate it through Netflix. Little smaller hunk of money.
Right.
However, you get paid again, and that
Exactly.
you get another little chunk of money, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I thought we didn't make any money in that. Like, well, that was the first go round, and now you're going to get a little more, and you're like, well, but then we did make money. You're like, well, yeah. I mean, and then wait 3 years or 5 years, whatever the deal is, and then we're
Mhm.
gonna probably be able to sell it again. And then don't forget the international markets get, and then all of a sudden you're realizing like, oh, it was an enormous hit, but and look, these are great case scenarios too, by the way. It
Sure.
can all blow up, but there is that because of the way the market works, and I want you to talk about this. There is the ability to continue to sell a movie that spins well on a platform.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what we're kind of seeing now too. Like, a movie will go for like 2, 3 years on a platform, and then all of a sudden it just disappears off of Netflix, and then it goes to Hulu for a year, and then it goes somewhere else after that. Like, it's kind of like renewing a contract. It's like being a free agent, like on a football team. You're just always going with somebody else who's got more money. There's more demand for you, and that's kind of like what our plan is going to be. Is this probably go 3 years with one platform, and then just kind of go somewhere else for a while, and then maybe just live on Amazon for a while after that, and then see where it goes. But I feel like with the movie that we have and the cast and the nostalgia factor, I feel like this will be one of those cult movies that just kind of lives forever.
Yeah.
Like, that just you think it dies and it just always kind of continues on. People will want to see it and talk about it, because there is like a huge demand that I've seen from audiences and crazy sci-fi people who just like, when can I see it? I get bugged all the time. My email's always blowing up for people, so I feel like this movie will kind of live on for at least a good strong 10 years. So if not more.
There's a couple. There's a couple of things in that too. Like when you talk about the marketability of a movie, you have sci-fi. Like, hey, I just want to watch some sci-fi. And you just type that into your search
Yep.
bar, and you just go, okay, yeah, sci-fi. I've not seen this one, and then it'll watch. Horror has the same thing. Horror
Yeah.
never above 2 stars. Don't have to worry about it. I just want to see a horror movie.
Yep.
Haven't seen this one, or oh, I love this one,
Right.
and then you watch it again, right? They just crank out money, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't stop. So a movie can make money for indefinitely. Like it just will
You can,
continue to
yeah.
pay.
And you'll make your most money in the front side of it, but like you can still make money for years to come on the back end. It'll just keep making you money, even if like you make $100,000 one year, maybe one year you're making 10,000 in 20 years, but you're still going to make something off the movie because people are always going to long to see it. Like there's movies that people still want to watch, like Die Hard, and those movies is live on forever. So that's what you want people to have with your movie, a good film that people want to watch over and over again. So
Yeah. What is Anthony Michael Hall worth in a movie like this?
he's worth a lot. He was our heaviest financial attribute, more than anybody else. But he also kind of came on at a discount because he wanted to really be a part of the project. And it's kind of like, well, he's like, if you let me come on as a producer, I can help you in certain areas for selling the movie. So he goes, I will even do, less, I'll do more days for the same price, so it really kind of helped us with everything, because really we only had enough for like 2 days with him. And then him coming out as a producer and being more invested, he's like, well, we can do 4 days, so it was
Mhm.
like, he really helped out in that factor. But he was the biggest price tag we had, but we knew we needed somebody with star power from the 80s to help bring the movie home. Because even with Dee and Reggie, it's like, they're great, and Sam and Lisa, but it's like he's the face that, he's always in some project. You see him on the Goldberg, see him on Reacher. I mean, he's always on a show. So it's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah. No, it is interesting because you can, in his case, he can look long term at this and he can say, I don't need as much day to day money, right?
Right.
Because I know what I'm worth in over 20 years with this thing, and
Mhm.
I'd rather get this thing made. I
Right.
think it's going to be good, right? Like there's a real value. And then I don't know the kind of guy. I've never met Anthony Michael Hall, but I imagine like any most of the people I meet are pretty good people. He looks around, he's like, I've known Lisa for 20 years or whatever it is. Let me
Right.
make sure everybody's going to get paid. And I can help do that. I can help make sure everybody gets a little something from this.
Right. And the good thing about Michael is, we talked on the phone back in July of last year. And then we met 2 days later at the smokehouse and had lunch and made, just kind of like a gentleman's handshake deal, at the smokehouse. And we were still like trying to get the paperwork signed. It took a long time with his people. And we did a table read in July, and he wasn't signed yet to the project, but he still like came on the Zoom and did a table read with everybody else because he cared that much about it. So it was
Yeah.
like everybody was happy. It's like, because usually if you're not signed, there's no point to do the table read, but he wanted to be there and support everybody.
Committed.
So he was committed, and it was nice to see that, like he was so invested already.
You guys check out the trailer. It's right down there. There's the link. It's called the Roswell Delirium. You can check out. It's pretty cool. The the whole Roswell thing, and more, like it's just so believable that the
Oh yeah.
aliens in the US, like there's still constantly news about this thing. What are your actual thoughts? Like what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I think like back in the 50s, I think they used kind of like aliens as a way to scare people. It's like, oh, well, if they come here, we're all going to be destroyed. So prepare, be doomsdayers, prepare yourself for the end. My thought is, it's like, look, the world is so big, like Earth is this small in this giant pool of other galaxies and planets. There has to be something else out there, other life form. Whether they can travel here or not, I don't know. But like, there
Yeah.
has to be another creature that can live in habitat on other planets. So I believe that they probably have come here at some point. It's like, but I feel like if the world knew that aliens were real 100%, they would go into mass chaos. It would be insane. People would lose their minds.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think people can. I think they like the idea of aliens, but I don't think they can handle the actuality of it being real. It's like, oh my God, I need more guns. I'm gonna need to protect myself.
Jesus
You're gonna have all these
Christ.
crazy people like buying more guns, like we had during
Yeah.
COVID. Everyone's like lining up to buy a gun. So I think, you're gonna see a lot of people going insane with that idea if they found the actual truth. So it's probably best they don't know. So
That's probably true. I love guns, right? Like I own
sure.
guns and everything like that. But I agree with you. You give my friends who are like crazy about guns any reason to buy guns. If you said
Yep.
like, hey, there's a sale for guns, or if you said, hey, we're gonna make guns more expensive,
Yep.
their default is to just buy a shitload of guns.
Everything.
So, every impetus, they're like, oh, I better buy more guns.
Yep.
I'm like, I've got just, I've got some. And I do not have a lot. You would think Pete has a rational number of guns. That's what you would say. Like, oh, Pete's got a few guns. And I shoot, I shoot often enough to make sure that I know what I'm doing, right? But man, I've got friends that are like, I bought a new gun. And I'm like, did the same gun as the last gun you bought? No, I bought 3 since then. And I'm like, 3? God damn. You got more guns than you got the ability to shoot in a year,
Exactly.
But you're right. People would lose their fucking minds. So just not that anybody cares, but I think about aliens. But the more I think about it, the more I realize how vast not only the space but the time is.
Yeah.
And like for all of humanity that we think and like we're just boop, we're gone. Like we don't even exist as long as I've made that boop sound. And so I just think it's impossible that anybody could detect that we were here and happen to stick the landing when we actually existed.
Yep.
Because it's just time and space it's just too big. You'd have to be looking, go, we want to go there and care enough to fucking come here. It's just, I don't know. I think that I'm positive that there are alien creatures and alien life, but yeah, I just don't. I don't know. And I'm ready. Look, I'm ready to be wrong, but there's no way it's just us. There's no way.
I've heard stories about Area 51. How people were getting killed, executed because they were trying to like take home secret files, and I've heard all kinds.
Yeah.
So, we'll never know. It's like they want to keep everything a secret. So
yeah, it is fun to think about, and it's interesting. So I used to be a spy. That was my job in the Army. And
nice.
I know nothing about that. Wasn't my area. So I have no specific knowledge. And if I was ever read onto that, I wouldn't say anything about it anyhow. Right. So, but I legitimately have no idea. But if I was in that world, I would let all of that stuff run wild and I would let people think whatever, because it's so distracting. I could use that to my advantage. And I would just run an info op on people and just let them think that. Even if I had alien shit, I would just like, yep, there you go. Look at that over there. Oh, don't come near the fence line. And they're like, let them obsess about all that shit, because it's like sometimes the most obvious direct approach. Like when you do surveillance, there's a lot of different things, and a lot of them are teeter-totter, right? So sometimes you want to be obvious, like, yes, we're following you every second of the day, so that when you walk, you're like, who's following me? And you just are obvious about it, so that they're always looking for that. And so they're forced to behave. And they're forced to act differently because they know they're being followed. And other times you're surreptitious about it. So it's an interesting thing with the aliens. And it's a great premise for a story. How did you land on the 80s and Roswell in general?
Well, I had this crazy idea like 4 years ago. It was like a short film, like 8 pages long. And like I did this documentary before about kids with cancer doing their bucket list. And one of the kids had cancer like 9 times. And the mom did everything she could to save the kid, and he just, at the end, he just wasn't strong enough to go through it again. And he didn't make it. And I thought, wow, I was like, what would a grieving mother do to save their child? Would she give him to aliens just as a like, here's save my child because I can't save him myself. So that kind of like started this whole idea of Roswell. And then I was like, well, what if like Area 51 exploded? It became like this holy land where it could heal people. And that's, it started to evolve into that kind of world. And when I was writing it, it didn't start off as an 80s movie. But then when I started to kind of develop the characters, and I was like, I'm like, this could totally take place in the 80s because there's so much need for nostalgia. People want to feel that way again when they watch an 80s movie, whether it was good or bad, like Bachelor Party or Footloose, whatever movie you like. It's like those movies made you feel a certain way. You just felt happy inside. I'm like, I wanted to just make a movie where we're just like really stuffing it full of Easter eggs, music quotes, movie references. Because like when I was a kid, you talked about like the quotes as part of your conversation. You always referenced the movie somehow. And I just really decided to take the idea of the 80s and just stick it through and make it as a joke, like there's things in there about, Dallas and JR being shot and Geraldo and his broken nose, but also keeping it kind of very parallel to the idea and the situation of COVID, where people like suffer like a nuclear, blast from Russia, but now they're kind of living their lives again back to normal. But now they're all having radiation poisoning and pretending like things are fine. And oh, you don't need anything now. You're all good again. So I just really started to take all these ideas and just stick them all together and expanded like so quick. I mean, just in 2020, I had nothing to do but write because we couldn't leave the house. We couldn't do anything. So I was like, I'm just going to like keep writing and then just let the ideas go.
Love it. I love it. And then, oh gosh, it's such an interesting concept. When you think about the, forget that part. Okay. All right. I'm going to get back onto the, I don't want to lose track of Lisa Welch. We'll come back to the topic, but
Okay.
She's such an interesting person because she hasn't had the same kind of career trajectory as someone, like Michael. So when you were talking about the 80s transformation, even Sam Jones, right? Like Sam is a little more culty in terms of his thing, and he's more of a callback kind of character.
Yep.
How was it talking to her about bringing her out? Why does she take on this project?
Well, it's very funny because, I talked to her agent and we were like having this discussion like for quite a while about her. And I said, look, it's very important to me to do an 80s movie, to make it feel like an 80s movie. Like, so she plays this high school teacher in the film. And I'm like, she is one of the most recognizable faces from the 80s that there is, and I was like, it's very important that she be the face of the teacher because it makes you feel like you're back in the classroom again, like you're a child again. People who are like in their 40s and 50s, it brings them back immediately, I feel like. And, I made them an offer and Lisa just spent, I think, like a day looking me up, like, who is this guy and why should I do this movie? Read the script and and then we talked and she just really like believed in me, and that was a lot of the battle that I had casting the film. People didn't want to come on board because I was a nobody. I've been working for 20 years in the business, but like I'm not like a Spielberg, I have that status. But she believed in me and she goes, I think you're going to make a great movie. So I want to do it. And, she was all on board. And that just meant a lot to me because it helped get like Reggie Johnson and then Michael Hall later, because it's his credibility. And she's not as popular as other people from the 80s. But, it was like that TV show. Everyone knows Facts of Life. I mean, everybody knows that show.
Right. The point you're making is so big. Like if you and I met at a party, okay, forget me. If you met someone at a party who didn't know the industry and you said, well, I make movies. They'd be like, oh, that's great. Have you made anything I've seen? You might be like, well,
sure.
But no shit. Like you're a movie maker. So the documentary I'm working on, the people involved have made some. Look, they've got excellent access to people that buy movies. They don't have to go around asking.
Sure.
They bring it. They're like, they have first right of refusal type deals with people, right?
Yeah.
This is significant. But if you don't know their work, have you seen this? No? Oh, okay. Well, I've made this. Have you seen this? No. Well, I've been very successful. It's like a thing where
Right.
You can be invisible and be a millionaire. I mean, legitimately, like I know a guy that he makes music videos, and he's made them for as long as they've made music videos, and he's made a lot of money, and he's made one movie that people have heard of, and otherwise you wouldn't know who he was. And that movie is from the 90s, and otherwise people haven't heard of him. His name's Mark Pellington, and he's got a house in Hollywood and it's enormous. It's like he
Yeah.
has been very, very, very successful. Another buddy of mine, I worked him at Tower Records. He is sort of the black version of Mark did all of the music videos in the 90s. Everybody, Chili Peppers, U2, everybody. My buddy Brian, who I worked with at Tower, we were kids together. He did the same thing, but like he hangs out with Andre 3000. Nobody knows who Brian Barber is, but man, oh man, if you want to make a movie and you were TLC, you
Yep.
called him and he just made money, made money, made money, made money. And so he's a mogul,
Yeah.
But if you met him at a party and you're like, oh, what do you do, Brian? Oh, well, I'm in media. And you'd be like, oh, that's adorable.
Right. It's so good.
No
Yeah.
idea.
Great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Have you made anything I've seen? Well, probably,
Mhm. Yeah, but that's very common. Like, I mean, we had people we were talking to because another producer, Larissa, and I, we would call people all the time and their agents. We were like pretty close with like William Macy. Like he was
Mhm.
considering it, but then it's like, well, who's directing it? And it's like, pass. It's like there's a lot of those where people were like excited because sci-fi sometimes scares people. They're like, oh, it's going to be this terrible movie, these bad effects. So that kind of scares people away. But like the people who read the script started to get close to it, but then it was like, oh, well, you're an unknown director, so no thanks.
Right.
So that
Right.
was the challenge that I had. I said, well, the reason I'm making the film is so I can do these bigger projects and keep going forward. That's the
Right.
whole battle here. So.
Yeah. What was the key for this movie? Was it the script? Was it Anthony Michael Hall? What was the thing that made the difference?
Well, I think the script really
Okay.
made the difference because the script can be as good as it can be, but without a good script, you're not going to attract actors to do it like the good ones, And we have like the actors in the film are great. All this '80s people, the unknowns, like Kylee and Ari, Ashton and Kaden and Georgia and Roman, like they all believed in the project so much based on the script. Like they were so excited about it. And trying to get the movie made was very difficult. There was times where I wanted to just like give up. I'm like, this is not working. Like we're not getting anybody signed. Like there's all these battles and we're still dealing with COVID regulations because we're a SAG project. It's like, maybe we should just walk away. But like they believed in it so hard. And then when we came on set, it's like they were just every day, like they would come to set even when they weren't filming. They just wanted to see it happening because they loved it so much. I'm like, well, maybe we do have something here. Maybe we do have a good project, and I'm just so worried about the money and the cost and the production, and sometimes I overlook those things, but like, I think the script really helped attract everybody because Michael read it. Within 2 days, we're on a phone call, So I think the script helped get everything going. I think it really just, helped people get on board.
Yeah. There's a difference. And I hate name dropping because I'm not trying to name drop, but
No, no.
I'm using names because I think it illustrates a point. So Tony Toast is we're well acquainted. He's been on the show. We can
Sure.
exchange emails and phone calls, that kind of thing. And he would say, your script needs to be the best thing that person has read all year. Now, if you're selling a show to somebody else, in your
Right.
case, you're doing something that requires a lower bar, right? Because you're going to make your slice alone.
Right.
But when you are trying to, it still needs to be excellent, right? When did you reach the point where you said, this is good? And who has to read it and go, yeah, man, this will work? Like, how long did that take? Because you've either got to hire someone like Jen Grisanti, if you know Jen, she's been on the show. You have to have someone who can give you no shit notes. You have to have the skin that's thick enough. You have to have the brain that can go, all right, I know how to make this better now, right? Like there's a lot of things that go into that bucket that you don't just show up with to get either to Tony's bar, which
Right.
is someone else is going to give you all of their money and then say, run this writer's room, or your bar where you're like, I'm going to be able to go out and I'm going to be able to sell this thing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I did like 17 drafts of the script, so like where it started is not where it ended. Like it was a lot darker in the first draft. I went to Salton Sea for inspiration, one day it was like 113 degrees and dying of heat stroke basically. But I got a lot of ideas, and I did like 17 drafts. I would change things, and then doing the casting helped inspire a lot of the rewrites, because people would walk into the room, like Kaden, this little girl who's like 14 years old, plays the mean girl in the movie. Just the way that she was with the material that I had, like made me write more material. And the same thing with Ashton. Like I spent 6 hours writing after she came into audition. So like that really helped me just change the script more. And I didn't have anybody over my shoulder saying it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way. It's like, this is my story, and either you like it or you don't. And that's I'm like, one or leave it, and that was the approach. But everybody seemed to really love it. So I was like, great. Fantastic.
But when did you get that confidence to know that that was going to be it, though?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of like, when people are coming over, like you're always cleaning, you're always like organizing until they get there. You're moving things around. And I would have kept going with the script, if we kept delaying it, but like, we delayed it enough because of the pandemic. So I was like, I think this is like the best it's going to get. Like when I read the last draft, I was like, I don't have any more ideas. I am stuck. I feel like this is the best version I could ever make. And I think everybody felt the same way.
Professionally, I don't mean on this script. I mean, like when in your career did you go, I have the capability to do this now? Like when did that develop for you? Like when did those pieces lock in where you're like, leave me alone? I know I need to go to the desert, and I'm not just going to go fuck off. I'm not.
Right.
Look, I've got a buddy who lives up north, and he's like, I'm going to go get drunk and write and be a writer. And I'm like, you are just an alcoholic, is what you are. There's a difference. There's a difference there, right? Like where you know how to workshop yourself and come out with something that comes from a certain level of experience and failure and success. When did you develop that?
Well, I think probably like 10 years ago when I did my first feature film back then, and like it was a lot of lessons learned. But the thing that I learned was I could tell when the scene wasn't working with the actors. I could tell when the script wasn't working, and I think that really helped me as a director and as a writer. So when I'm writing, I can I read it and I'm like, this doesn't work. It doesn't mesh. Like this is like the voices are sounding too similar, or like there's no reason for this scene to happen. And so I really started to feel like, okay, now I know what works, what doesn't work. So when I watch a movie that's not even mine, I can tell it's not working because of this. I just saw Rebel Moon a few weeks ago, and I know it's a big Netflix movie, but like I was like, sadly, there's really no reason to care about anybody in the movie because the writing doesn't make you care about anyone. And I'm like, I wanted to like it, but I was like, I just don't. But I knew all the things that weren't working, and I knew why. That's kind of how I am with my projects. I know when things aren't working in the performance. I know when to change it and when to pull the actor aside. I mean, it's like you just learn these things, and that's like it's about executing, and sticking to your path. But like you have to really be good at what you're doing, especially when you don't have the studio budget and all these potential days of reshoots. Because in an independent movie, we had 23 days to shoot this whole film, and all these locations. So it's like you have to really be efficient.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yeah. I mean, you have said you've said a showed full right there. I mean, just sometimes just doing this and you go, oh shit, I didn't realize that saved me $20,000. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, I've learned so much from talking to you guys. Please.
Yeah, no. I was just saying, every day you make a movie, there's a hurdle, there's a problem. You have to just deal with it and keep going forward. Like the one day we rented an 80s school bus to show up, and they brought this 2010 CTA looking bus with the flat nose. And I'm like, that's not the 80s at all. So, while everyone's getting in makeup and wardrobe, we're making phone calls to get another bus delivered, so it's like, and you just have to problem solve, let no one know the problems are happening, but just make it work and fix it. That's all the time. That's every day.
Man, You are speaking directly to me. I am not a movie maker in terms of like I am producing a movie, but I am a people assembler. That's my
Sure.
job. But when I see something as a mechanic of a movie, of a documentary, or
Right.
whatever I'm watching, I was watching Black Panther when the first one came out, and they lost me in the first 10 minutes because they were showing me Oakland, Black Panther Oakland, and these kids were playing basketball into a milk crate. And I'm like, I grew up in and around Oakland. That's not Oakland. That's New York. That's somewhere
Mm.
else.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
right there, milk crate. Nope, that's not how
Yeah.
that. That's not Oakland. And in an instant, they lost me, and I was like, man, that stuff really matters to get certain things right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to Mark Ruffalo. I was watching All the Light You Cannot See, and
Yep.
I was like, every time I see that dude in a movie, I I can't hang with him. Whatever he look, first off, his accents were terrible in that movie, and
Sure.
so they kicked me out. But when I saw him in Zodiac, and again, I'm from that area, and I'm like, nope, you are not speaking the Bay to me, and it matters so much. So I don't want to be negative. I want to be positive.
Sure, sure.
Um, I was watching. I don't know if you ever watched Live from Daryl's House. It's Daryl Hall. It brings musicians in. Oh, it's wonderful. If you
Oh,
like
no,
Daryl Hall's
I
music,
have watched. Yes, I have. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
so he
Yes.
started making new episodes again. Finally, finally,
Okay.
finally, finally, and he had Lisa Loeb on. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
Lisa
Oh, yeah.
Loeb's music
Stay.
at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so she's just an adorable little tiny person who sings beautifully, and she sang "Rich Girl," but she sang it from her point of view with her voice as like a girl singing to another girl. And I was like, you little perfect piece of art making person, completely changed that song, you
Yeah.
know? And I was like, and I love these lessons because so when I was a spy, one of the things I had to figure out is, oh my gosh, all these specs, respect, perspective, introspection, all of them, they all matter. I've got to think spherically through time, and I've got to realize there's all these different things happening that have nothing to fucking do with me. I'm in
Yeah.
someone else's world, and if I can understand that, I can understand so much more of what's going on. And so, seeing Lisa Loeb talk to her girlfriend in that song changes completely what that song is. And it reminded me that Nancy Sinatra took These Boots Are Made from Walking from her dad. And she's like, no, daddy, you can't sing that song. It's cruel when you sing it. I have to sing it. And I
Right.
was like, holy fuck, it does change that song. Because when Frank sings it, you're like, oh my God, it's terrifying when you sing,
Exactly.
and all of these things change your art, right? And you're like, yeah, I want to hear you say it. How are you going to say it? And it informs the writer on how it can be better and how it will be when Lisa Loeb says it or whoever it is, in a way that, because they're the perfection of your words.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's beautiful to watch somebody else take your words and bring them to life. That's like magic when they can make you believe that they're that person. It's like, but I wrote it and you weren't that person, but now you become that person, and that's the beauty of acting when they're that good and they can make you believe that they are that person. And I think when people see most of these kids and the 80s people and the newcomers, they're gonna like all love or hate them. There's mean girls in the movie and stuff, so they're gonna hate those girls, but like they just really bring your words to life. And if actors can't do that, you don't have a movie. Like you got to have the right people for that. So you have to have the right
No,
people.
that's great. Hey, when you're at your level right now, I mean, you're making your own movie, you're getting it financed and everything else. You still have too many hats on your head.
Yes.
What's the next hat you want to get rid of?
Well, I think for me, the next hat I'd love to get rid of is like, with this movie, I did the editing as well. Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and it wasn't by choice. I hired an editor and then I hired another editor and I just felt like they were not delivering the scenes well. Like the performances were being lost. I'm like, I was there in the jail. I know exactly the moments. And I'm like, you're not. And they're like, oh, they don't exist. I'm like, they exist. And I would have to go through it. I'm like, here's that moment. And I kept doing that, like wasting my time trying to track down these moments. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it myself because these people are they're good editors and they've done some great work, but I just felt like they weren't going to make the movie that I wanted. So I would love to get rid of that hat for the next project. That would be fantastic. So.
Are you good at getting rid of hats?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
I'm good at delegating because for a lot of my career I've been a DP, and so for this movie I hired this guy Carter Ross, who is fantastic, and it's like I've had other DPs in the past where I have to always kind of be in the camera world and talking to them and reassuring them and working out stuff, and with him it's like he just got it, and he could lead the lighting department and the camera team, so I could just focus on the actors. It's like without him the movie wouldn't have worked either because he just really freed up my time where I'd have to babysit. He just delivered. I gave him a shot list. Here's the scenes that we're going to do. Here's the takes. Here's we're going to start here first and work our way that way. And then we would just kind of coordinate for time with the AD. Like, hey, we're just going to like work this way around the table for the shots. And it's like without him, the movie wouldn't have been half as good because he just really helped me focus on my actors. So
I love that. When I think about directing, and I'm in no way a director, but when I think about directing, the art of it, I think about a guy who has zero overlap between all of the different people around him. And
yeah.
you're just like pointing. You're pointing at the DP. Are you ready? Pointing at the actors. Are you ready? Like you've done your part. And then you sit back and you just watch what you need to watch. And as long as it's happening, like you're as zero, like you can't be perfectly your own island, but you're trying to be as out of that person's business as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking to the sound guy. You're not looking over their shoulder, because they know their damn job, Maybe you've interacted with the actor because there is something you're looking for, but you've accounted for these things. That's what I think of when I think about directing is you've got the right people in place and you've given them control because they know your art and they know your voice, and they're trying to give you exactly what you've asked them to give you or what they know you want.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like I feel like, you only have a great product if you have the best people behind you. And I would tell you, like most movies, there are like weeks of ADR sessions, where they have to go back and re-record the audio. And there is not 1 second of ADR in this movie. That's how good our sound mixer was. Ellie did a fantastic job. So there is not 1 second of ADR at all. And it's funny because even when we were almost done with the edit, like they were like, well, now there's a strike. And I'm like, well, luckily we don't need anybody back because we have perfect audio, for the whole movie. So that was fantastic. And, it's like without like her, we would have like lost a lot of time in ADR. That's money. You got to bring back the actors, got to pay someone to run the booth, and it's like, you have to have the right people around you. And the makeup artist that we had, Becca, was just phenomenal. It's like, she does all these monster makeup stuff. And like every scene, there's like all these prosthetic pieces on the face and the hands. And just, it's like really just, we talked, like a lot of times before this, like I need an idea of time so we can build it into the schedule. So we're not waiting for you and getting angry. So we just need to know, like, is this 2 hours? Is that an hour? There's ball caps. It's like, and she would just let the AD and I know, like, this is how much time I need, so it's like, but all the right people makes a difference.
And which part of your job, which hat is too comfortable where you force yourself to, like, I've got to get the heck out of here. I love it, but these guys have this and I have to go do the things that nobody else can do. Which hat is that?
Oh boy, which hat is that? I mean, I want to like be there and helping everybody. So like sometimes like I mean, just because I feel bad because I started as a PA, like I'll see PA bring stuff in and maybe just getting lost and with, like, oh, I forgot a lunch order. And then I try to go into that world and help them out. Like, here, just go get another thing and bring it, and I just have to get away from that because that's just not as important. Like, it's good to be fed, but like I need to step away and just let the other, coordinator and stuff deal with that and not even get involved. But I'm always trying to like, let's just problem solve and keep going. Let's not talk for 10 minutes about it. Let's just make a quick idea and fix it,
Yeah. Do you what's you at your worst on set and then what's you at your best?
My worst on set is when somebody comes to set not prepared. Like, I mean, I would tell you, like, when you're working with like child actors, and I hate that I call them a child because they're all like adults. I mean, they're so smart and talented, and they're 14, but they're also talented. And when you have them on set, you have them for 8 hours. That's it. Like, and they're gone because of the labor laws.
Yeah.
So we were out in Riverside filming the scene, and the Steadicam person that we hired for the day came an hour late.
Oh.
And he's like, I didn't know Riverside was that far away. And I was like, you live here. You live in California. You've worked in every city. I don't buy that. Like, and you cost us an hour. So, for me, that's my worst. I'm like trying to like rush through stuff, and I'm like scratching my head and doing a lot of these, rubbing my temple, and not letting everyone know how angry I am. But I'm like, we have to get through this. We got to get these shots, and our time is now being rushed because you're an hour late. It's like stuff like that. And I'm at my best, I think, when people are just delivering a hell of a performance. Like when I see that I can sit back and watch like Ashton, who had to give this powerful performance in the jail. Like I sat there just bawling. It's like, it was so beautiful to watch. Like this moment happened that was, basically just all fictionalized. It's not based on a real conversation, a real moment in life by anybody I know, but like she made me believe and care about her in this moment, the final moment in the movie. And I'm just like bawling. It's like, oh my God, it was so beautiful to watch. Like that makes me happy. Like watching that just come alive, nothing like it.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. Yeah, it's I was watching the last season of The Crown, and they did such a great job when they did the whole death of and even just talking about it when Diana dies, because I remember it. And my daughter was just born, and we had all that skin to dad time to kind of bond her to me. And it was just, I didn't realize like how powerful it was. And they did such a great job. If they would have put Elton John on stage singing Wind Beneath My Wing or Candle in the Wind, I would have I would have fully lost it because it was powerful then, and to make that moment, I mean, just there's any of these moments where it's just when it shines through the camera and you or anybody who makes those moments and you're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
And you just see it come through the camera. And I know you see it all the time, especially the British actors. They are so damn good. Like actor for actor, that country, they are incredible. They are incredible. I love watching great work like that. And so, again, hat off to you because to know that you're crying from the work that you create is going to say something about what you've done with your movie. When is it dropping? Is it out now officially on streamers? I know you had your debut.
We are doing a small festival run and probably going to release it May of 2024. That's kind of our time frame, but like really want to kind of create the buzz in the festival world to get people excited about it because we kind of like had the trailer drop back in July. And then everything just kind of stopped because of the strike. So we got everyone excited. And then we had to like stop and like delay everything. So I feel like I just want to get the momentum going again. Get people talking about it, Michael and Dee and everyone, and then just really deliver, in a couple of months. So.
Yeah. Everybody, the Roswell Delirium, I'm going to go and check that out when it comes out this spring, maybe early summer. And any other things you want to chat about before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, you're talking about the Princess Diana thing, and how emotional it kind of even got you for a second. And I, in the movie, because it's the 80s, I kind of wanted to have iconic moments of time in the film. So we did the Challenger scene where the kids watch a Challenger explode in the classroom. And like none of the kids in the movie really even knew about it. Like they had no idea. So I made them watch a video on Kristen McAuliffe for like 10 minutes just so they knew who that was. And I just started like getting all teary eyed. I'm like, oh my God, talking about it. Cause I'm like, I was a kid. I watched that, and like our teacher started bawling her eyes out. And I was like, what's going on? I was confused. I was like 8 years old. And I just like, I felt it was very important to show them, here's this person, here's this thing in time. I know it's in the movie and it's a scene for you, but like, it's a real event. And we lost people just to get up there in space, and I felt like it was so important. And like one of my challenges too is like getting permission from NASA to get all this footage, because like it took like 6 months to even get permission to use stuff for the movie and their name in the movie. So it's like I wanted to do it right. So I try to like detach myself from my own emotions to do that scene.
Yeah. I remember so clearly the that pride shot that they had on her folks, and
Mm-hmm.
it goes from pride to what happened, and you're
Yep.
just like, yeah, what is going on? And they just held that shot, and you're just like, oh, please get it off of them, please. And
Yep.
it was just it right now makes me uncomfortable. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh man, it's just these moments are so crazy.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think that's why like people who have seen the movie really like have responded to it so well, because sure it's like nostalgia and it makes you laugh a little bit, it makes you feel good, but like in the end, it's a very serious, dramatic film. It turns on you. It's like
Yeah.
wow, here I was laughing, but now it gets very serious. And I think people really relate to a film where you take them on a emotional roller coaster. I think they really enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Have you seen the new Christmas Story, the sequel?
I did. I watched it last year. Yeah, wasn't as good. I mean, I didn't hate it completely, but I expected a lot worse than what I got. You could tell
Okay. All right.
there
That's
was
very
parts to it.
nice.
I've been to that house in Cleveland and to see it, years ago. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll watch it, but like, I knew it wasn't going to be great when the original mom wouldn't do the movie. So I was like, oh, well, but I still try to give it a watch, and, didn't hate
Yeah.
it completely. So
But it's not that hard to do a good version of that. It's just it's just too busy with all the callbacks. And why does the kid have to be such a sad sack, mamby-pamby dude? Like every
right.
single time, just I don't know.
Sometimes it's
I
the easy way out. It's like,
I definitely did that.
like if you like, I don't know if you've seen Coming to America Part Two. Like I love the first one. I've seen it like 1,000 times. It's my favorite movies ever. It's just so well executed. The comedy, the writing. And then you watch part two, and it's like, you had 20, 30 years to make this movie. This is what you gave us. And you had a
Yeah.
pandemic to delay it. It's like, how do you make this film? Like nothing worked. Like the acting, nothing worked. It's like, oh, it's like,
Yeah.
don't do it unless you can deliver a Top Gun movie, like sequel. Like don't, give us something
Yeah.
like that.
And I even in Top Gun, and I love Top Gun, and I expected it to be a little bit schmaltzy and over the top, just like two less callbacks and
Yep.
one less tagline, and like just a little less delicate. Like I don't mind the bust of Harold Ramis in the Ghostbusters thing, but just like
Sure.
a little less callbacky,
Yeah.
like you don't have to be right on the goddamn nose every goddamn time there's an opportunity to goddamn do it. Like just, you know,
It's
oh,
good just to
like,
kind of like almost take you there, then bring it back and pull it away. It's like, here's a little,
yeah,
and then it's gone. So
yeah. Like not offering it every single time. Like let
yeah,
us want it and don't give it to us every single time. I
yeah,
don't know. Anyhow.
make us beg for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah. So when you get it, you're like, oh, there it is. There it is.
exactly.
Yeah. All right, man. Listen, well, I appreciate it. I'm super stoked to see it. And is it going to be any more limited releasing at all, or is it just going to be the festivals?
Yeah, for right now, I think we're having a screening in January at the Chandler Film Festival on the
Okay.
21st. That'll be the next one, and then we'll probably have another, I think, a run in February where we'll have a show at the Man's Chinese Theater, and I'll let people know about that one, and then probably release in April, May. So just kind of give a little. We've already won like 12 awards so far for the film, and I'm like, wow, it's only been a month of festivals, so I'm like, let's try to see how many we can get before we get this thing out to.
Yeah, get some of them laurels. How
Yeah.
do people keep track of where it's going to be? What's the best way? Is it the website or
The
what is
best
it?
way to follow the film is to go to Instagram or Facebook and just look up Roswell Delirium. It'll give you all the information about screenings, about releases, any little fun tidbits, behind the scenes photos, pictures on the red carpet, whatever. So that's the best place to go.
I'll put that in there. Just Roswell Delirium. Type it in. Try not to misspell it like I did, and you for sure will find it. All right. Let me run these credits, and we'll get out of here. All right, hold on one sec, and I'll be right back to you. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here, are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you